Smart, since fewer and fewer people are alive who even know who Lou Gehrig is. ALS is referred to as a muscular degenerative disease, but it's not really a muscle disease, it's a central nervous system disease. See, for most people the brain sends messages down through the spine where these things called lower motor neurons are located. These lower motor neurons exit the spine and transport the brain signals to the muscles. This allows you to do all sorts of things like walk, brush your teeth, do pull-ups, play golf, slap a hoe who don't got your money. Throw something at Melvin. Get away from my pogs, Melvin. Run away from an angry dog. See? My motor neurons are working just fine. But for people with ALS, over a period of time, ALS breaks down the cells that transport the signals between the brain and the motor neurons. As a result, the signals that the brain is sending to the muscles get weaker and weaker until they just stop altogether. Over time, patients lose their ability to walk and do basic activities. Once the disease really sets in, paralysis occurs and you lose the ability to do just about anything that requires muscles, like talking or chewing. Eventually, it results in complete organ failure and death. Most patients die somewhere from 3 to 5 years after being diagnosed. The disease is most common among people ages 60 to 69, but young people can get it too. And sadly, there's no cure or real treatment for ALS. The medical community doesn't even really know what causes ALS, but there are all sorts of theories as to why people get it, including chemical exposures, athletics, military service, infectious agents, nutritional intake, physical activity, and trauma. But no one really knows, and that makes it that much harder to find a cure. So basically, that's where we stand with this disease. But on the upside, this whole Ice Bucket Challenge thing raised a lot of money for ALS, and it's really even bigger than ALS itself because it may have actually changed the future of charitable fundraising forever. The downside of that is that from now on you're going to see all sorts of ridiculous copycat fundraising ideas for all sorts of various causes. Eat some expired yogurt to raise awareness for dengue fever. Make out with a homeless person to help fight bird flu. Walk over hot coals in order to help find a cure for whatever it is that's wrong with Kanye West. From now on, as long as we have suffering in the world, there will be insanely dumb and painful ways of sacrificing your dignity in order to help alleviate the problems or just make us feel better about ourselves. And we will always have the internet to endlessly share our odd behavior until everyone is sick of it. I hope this video was helpful, and everyone who participated in the Ice Bucket Challenge, you did a really, really good thing, whether you know anything about ALS or not. That's all for this week, kids. Please click the widget below to subscribe to my channel and like my Facebook page to get the latest Man on the Street videos as well as my newest vlogs. I'm Dan Joseph. See you next week.
And that was Dan Joseph's latest clip talking about the Lou Gehrig's disease, the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Now, those of you out there in Radioland who happen to go to PJ Media or Pajamas Media and enjoy their stuff from time to time. You know, Bill Whittle and then the Trifecta crew, which is Bill Whittle and Steve Green and Scott Ott and Andrew Clavin's items on there, as well as, of course, Vounsel Rachel, good old Zoe with Zonation. Great stuff on there, especially if you're more right-minded. And for those of you who need a fresh look on things and think that some segment of the population with a certain skin tone may automatically have certain political views. First of all, I think you need to be slapped upside the head a couple times to get the brain going again, get those brain cells to bounce into each other and work. But Alfonso Rachel is great on there, and he really puts a good vision on conservatism on there and does a great job of exposing how the leftist ideology manipulates certain segments of the population based on collectivist demographics. And he's really good at it. He doesn't use those fancy words, though. He uses other things, and he's really good at reaching the people. But anyway, if you go over there, or if you just go on YouTube and look at Pajamas Media, they put some of their videos up for free on YouTube. You will see comedian Steven Cruiser on there taking the Ice Bucket Challenge. So, you know, there's plenty out there. So, like they said, you know, a couple million of people have done this so far, and that's just another famous person who's done it. So go ahead and take a look if you want to see Steven Cruiser get a bucket of ice water dumped over him. Especially if you're on the other side of the political spectrum from us, you'd really enjoy watching that happening, right? So there you go. Have fun with it, folks. Anyway, that's enough about the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. Let's see what's going on in the world of politics.
You don't have a right to know everything in a separation of powers government, my friend. That is the difference between a parliamentary government and a separation of powers government.
Well, yesterday was primary day for a couple of states, including, I think, Oklahoma. I think they had a special primary at least, and several other states. Among them was Arizona. Those of you who have heard me talk know that I highly endorsed and highly supported my friend Chuck Wooten, who is running for U.S. Representative in the 2nd Congressional District, hoping to get the bid in order to run against Ron Barber, who's the current incumbent. Well, I have the results with the majority reporting, about 99% reporting across the state. In the 1st district, which is not Chuck Wooten's district, running for the chance to unseat the incumbent Democratic Party Congressman Kirkpatrick, you had Tobin, Keene, and Quasman running, and it's a virtual tie, folks. It's really, really close. Tobin has about 35.9%, whereas Keene has 35.2%. When you're talking about 0.7%, you're talking a couple of hundred, not thousand, not 100,000, not 10,000s, but a couple of hundred votes. And that's close. And from what I've seen, it was also there's a fairly decent turnout, it looks like, there. And then Quasman is down with 28.9, so about 29%. So it's virtually a three-way tie, because I'm sure with recounts and everything, those numbers will adjust, and I mean, it's just that close. And with nobody getting over 50%, I'm not sure about Arizona's laws. I'm pretty sure it's just winner take all regardless. But with nobody getting over 50% of the vote in many states, like here in Texas, that would prompt a runoff between the number 1 and number 2. And with time winding down towards the November general elections, who knows if they're going to have time for that. In the 2nd district, which was where Chuck Wooten was running, Chuck did pretty good. He got almost 25% of the vote. But by and large, the winner was Martha McSally. So the people living in the 2nd district, Arizona Congressional District, have decided to have the donkey in a rhino costume, the emasculated version of John McCain, run against Ron Barber for the November general election. Now, I'd say, well, maybe they just chose Martha McSally based on her stance on the issues. The problem is, she refused to talk about any of the issues. She tried to target Chuck Wooten because he was only enlisted in the Air Force. He must not know anything about leadership. That was about her only stance. That and squawking about spending on planes, and without any real expertise in the field of those particular planes and how they're used tactically, because McSally didn't fly those types of planes. We're talking about the A-10 and its potential replacement. She didn't fly ground support missions. She flew something else. And that was her entire leadership, is she was able to command an inanimate object. You know, that's like your 9-year-old being in command of the PlayStation 3 because he or she holds the controller. So they're commanding the video game. Now, granted, there's a little bit more on the line when you're talking about flying a fighter jet. Got it. I don't want to say that the two are anyway near the same level of skill required. You know, when you have lives on the line, there's a little bit of a difference there with the aircraft versus just a game. But not when you're flying the airplane, you're not really in command of people. You're not really leading the people. The people who do the work, who are looking for leadership and management, are being mostly taken care of by the senior non-commissioned officers when you're talking about Air Force. And that's where Chuck Wooten comes in. And Chuck Wooten has done stuff from a leadership perspective since he retired in the business field. So people voted for Martha McSally either A, name recognition because she's run so many times, so it just became an automatic thing, or B, because they have no idea what her stance on the issues are, so they just voted for the name recognition, or hey, for whatever reason they didn't know what they were voting for. And probably the people who did vote for her, who did so on purpose, actually were supporting her, they still don't know what the heck she stands for. Nobody does, as far as from her campaigning goes. Those of us who were involved in earlier primaries that involved Martha McSally have seen a little bit more of her true colors, and that's why the more conservative, the 25 or so % of the population of Cochise County that actually is aware and actually does get involved and does know what the issues are and does know what kind of things need to be addressed, and what it means to balance a budget, and what it means to do the business at the federal level of the nation, and what it does mean to get the government over regulation put back into a reasonable level of regulation that will enable free market competition and enable the ranchers and farmers that live in the more rural areas of Arizona to be able to do their stuff. They voted for Chuck Wooten. The people who have no idea what the heck's going on voted for Martha McSally just because they were voting Republican and figured, oh, okay, her again. So she almost beat Barbara before. Let's vote for her. If they actually understood the issues and watched the polls and everything, they would have voted for Chuck Wooten, and Chuck Wooten would easily defeat Ron Barber, because Barber, although he's been sitting in Congress, there's no way on the issues that he could beat a conservative like Wooten. One word alone: Obamacare. Another one: veterans issues, the VA. They could sit there and say, well, Barber supported this veterans initiative, that veterans initiative. He never served. He doesn't know a damn thing. Sorry. Unless your ass has been in a foxhole and been shot at, and you've been blown up, or watched your friends get blown apart by IEDs, you've actually served in the military, and you've seen people get seriously hurt and have to depend on the government fulfilling its promises, that part of the contract, those obligations that are made to the service members, and the VA actually doing what it's supposed to do, and have to deal directly, either yourself or a spouse who had to rely on that and actually depend on that in many areas, because sometimes the civilian civilian options won't take care of those issues or don't know how to. So people are stuck relying on the VA, and you watch the VA fail. Sitting there and hearing the stories from here or there, or what have you, just is nowhere near the same as actually having the experience. And Wooten has that experience. I don't think McSally cares, honestly. She's a prima donna when she's in the Air Force. She put herself above everybody else. She doesn't know what selfless service really is. She just flaps her gums about it. And that's the person that roughly 68% of the people in Congressional District 2 voted for. Well, you got it, folks. Enjoy it. And when things don't get any better, just remember it's because you just voted for more of the same. Because really, Ron Barber, Martha McSally, no difference. They both have the same mentality, and they both have the same working parts. And you can figure out what I mean by that. So there's my my political rant for this Wednesday, this hump day. Now, trying to decide where to go to next. Well, we were talking about veterans, folks. So I just want to remind you what Governor Perry was saying as far as trying to get veterans some help here in Texas. So this is something from
our men and women in uniform have valiantly served and profoundly sacrificed for our nation. That's why Texas is expanding staffing at the Texas Veterans Hotline with experts trained to help veterans deal with the VA. Callers can learn what they qualify for, and in the most urgent cases, TVC experts will work directly with the VA to help veterans get the answers and care they need and deserve. Call the hotline at 1-800-252-VETS. Thank you.
So, talking about the VA. Well, a couple of days ago, actually I think it was yesterday morning, or maybe it was late on Monday. I have to check the exact date on it. But the Department of Veterans Affairs, Office of the Inspector General, the VAOIG, came out with their latest update on their report on their internal investigation and audit of the issues going on with the VA and the Veterans Health Administration. You know, the VA healthcare clinic portion of the VA. And well, they found that some of the issues were even worse than they thought, and there were several things that concern them, and they need to find fixes, etc., etc. And this is like a 143-page long report. But one of the interesting things that they said was they kind of backpedaled a little bit on one of their earlier reports. It's almost like they've gone into spin and cover-up mode, or the unions got to them and said, hey, watch it, because we own your labor pool, and we can make things really bad for you, so you're going to start changing your tune a little bit. Because what they did with one thing was they said that they could find no conclusive proof that could directly tie the deaths of the veterans in either Phoenix or some of the other locations with the gaming, what they call the gaming, the system gaming, the secret waiting lists, so to speak. They could find no correlation between the two. They said there are other problems and that they were disturbing, but they're saying that there's no way that those long wait times, sitting there waiting to see a doctor, caused any of these deaths. And I'm sorry, but I need to tell the VA OIG that they're full of it. They're lying. Now, granted, you can look at an autopsy and say, okay, was cause of death waiting for medical attention that didn't come? That's not going to be listed on a cause of death line on an autopsy. Got it. And that's what they're trying to do, is say, well, they couldn't list that. They didn't list that type of thing, so that it's inconclusive. So therefore, it's inconclusive. It means that you can't tie it. Wrong. Inconclusive means you don't know. It doesn't mean you can deny. It means more evidence is necessary to prove one way or the other. can neither confirm nor deny at this point. So you need to go back and look in another direction. That's what inconclusive means. And that's not what the VA reports